are so lucky to live on Lake Norman, and I wanted to do a painting, a watercolor of the lake in a sunset. So I thought that that would be a really fun thing to do together. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw what is going to be the horizon line. Now the horizon line is where the sky meets the ground, or in this case, where the sky meets the water. That makes a horizontal line, which is called the horizon line. Now we're going to put ours so that it is about a quarter or a third away from the bottom. This is very typical for artists who don't like to put a horizon line in the middle of the painting because it breaks the top and the bottom into equal halves and is not as interesting. Most artists put the horizon line way up high, in which you would have a lot of water and just a little bit of sky, or way down low where you would have a little bit of water and a lot of sky. So we're going to come up between a third and a quarter of the way from the bottom, and we're going to make a line using our B pencil, and then we're going to put in some hills or mountains, something like that, just to give it some depth. Now we're going to use a little bit of a painter's trick. We're going to use our big circle dots to keep our sun from getting any paint on it. So we took the circle dot off, but the back is really sticky. Look at that. Ugh. So if I put this down on my paper right now, when I pull it up off of my paper, it's going to pull paper off with it. So I'm going to de-stickify that by putting it on the palm of my hand or the back of my hand, and then taking it off. And the natural oils from my skin will help to de-stickify it. I'm taking it on and off maybe about 6, 7, 8 times. It's still sticky enough that it'll stay on my paper, but it's not so sticky that it'll rip off paper when I take it off later. So I made these 2 hills, and I purposefully made a little bit of a break in those hills. That's where my sun is going to be setting, right in that break. And I'm going to put my sun down on my paper so that it is about a third or a quarter of the way below the horizon line. And the rest of the sun is above the horizon line. Just like if I was sitting outside watching the sun come down behind the lake. It's going to be beautiful. Now the bottom is going to be my water and the top is going to be my sky. And a little trick that I can tell you is that if I'm just working on my sky and I don't want any drips to come down into my water, I can flip my paper around, and that gives me a little bit more control and lets me work from light to dark, because I'm going to have yellows and then to oranges and reds and finally to blue. I always want to start with the lightest colors because my paintbrush will pick up those colors, and if I start with the blue and my paper is like this, if I start with the blues and then work my way down to my yellows, then I'll still have blue in my paintbrush, and I'll never really get to a very true yellow. So I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to plan backwards. I'm going to plan from the horizon line to the top of my paper. So I'm going to have beautiful sunset, yellow to orange, to red, and finally to blue. I'm going to load my brush with water, pick up my yellow, and for the time being, I'm going to start right at the horizon line and come right over my sticker. Now I'm using the tip of my rounded brush, my largest rounded brush, and I'm just making horizontal lines back and forth with yellow and picking up a bit of that. And I'm going to come to about maybe halfway toward the end of my paper. Before I start getting any other color. Maybe even a little bit more. And then I'm going to pick up some orange, and I'm just going to start dragging it from the outside of my paper toward the center of my paper. From the outside toward the center. Pick up my brush from the outside toward the center, outside toward the center. Now I'm overlapping this orange into my yellow. And then I'm going to pick up some red, and I'm overlapping this red just a little bit into my yellow. So that I have a nice gradient. And I'm finally going to pick up some blue. And just so that I keep true blue, I'm going to go from the top of my page and then from the outside in, from the outside in, outside in, outside in, outside in, outside in. And when I turn it around, I can see it's a little bit blue, red. I'd like for this to be a little bit more of a gradient, so I'm going to keep working it just a little bit until it has a smoother transition. Maybe a little bit of this blue comes down too. Ooh, I like that. So my yellow pretty much dried, and then when I started to bring some of the bluish purpley over, then it kind of looks cloudy. So I turn it around like this and it kind of looks like clouds. I do like that. Okay, now I can focus on the water, and I'm going to do a little bit of the same approach, only it's going to be condensed, and my beautiful yellows and oranges and reds are going to be focused underneath the sky, and then the blues are going to be to the outside. So again, I'm going to start with my lightest colors, which is my yellow, and I'm going to start underneath the sun because this is reflecting. And I'm just doing some horizontal strokes back and forth. And then I'm going to pick up some oranges, and I'm going from the outside, kind of back and forth. I'm trying not to make it stripy, but this is going to give me a nice sense of reflection. And then I'm going to maybe pick up just a little bit of red. And then I'm going to come in and get my blues. And I'm going from the outside in. Some of those blues are going to come straight through. Just like that. From the outside in. All right, great job, guys. So now we have a beautiful sun setting. We're going to leave that and come back to it when it's dry and do another layer of watercolor and some pen. So just leave it until tomorrow. Thanks, guys.